In this country, we have two electoral roles, Maori and general. If you're Maori, it's your choice which role you're on. Is this an anachronism, or can your political choice influence the shape of Parliament? Today on Think Tank, we look at the implications of a shifting vote. Ia wiki ki Think Tank, ko wānanga ho honu mātai, ko aku manuhiri i ngā kaupapa, e hāngai puana, ia tātou katoa. Kei oi, ha koa ko wai te manuhiri. Aha koa e aha te kaupapa, ka hora i a Think Tank, ko te whaenga, kia puta he māramatanga, e whakoutu. Nā mihi o te ata ki au koetau, nau mai ki Think Tank. Today's kaupapa, the Māori electoral option. Tēnā koutou ka aku manuhiri, haroa ki au koetau. Joining me today, we have Dr. Anne Sullivan, political scientist, Jeremy Hema, Māori Liaison Officer, Auckland University, George Ngātai, co-chair of the Māori Party, Tāmaki Makaurau. Kei te mihi ki au koetau. Our researcher, Kitty Daniel, hit the streets to find out what the punters are saying about this issue.
I te hea rārangi pōti, te tino kaha mo te ao Māori, te rārangi pōti Māori, rārangi Pākehā rānei.
Ai, te rārangi pōti Māori, nā te mea, tino kaha, ngā Māori kei roto i tēnei wāhi, katoa, ai.
Probably be the Maori role, I would have thought.
Why do you think that?
Because that's where they need to be for their culture.
Oh, I feel bad saying this, but I think they're better off to do it on the general roll. Yeah.
Mōku ake koira te wāhi mō te iwi Māori tuatahi kei roto i te rārangi Māori.
I think there's benefit in both, but I'm going to go with the Māori role, because the more Māori voters we have enrolled, then the more seats Māori will get guaranteed in the House.
Māori role, firstly because Māori issues are always in the public arena, and perhaps more representation or voices of Māori descent will push those issues a little bit further to resolution.
Could someone, probably starting with you, just explain to us why we have this option, why there are two separate roles, Māori, general?
Well, cast my mind back to 1867. I think it was set up because the politicians at the time were worried that Māori were having too much of an influence, and so it was established as something of a sort of limiting factor to sort of create an exclusive sort of mechanism for Māori to be involved on a very limited pool of issues that pertain to them.
What's your take on it?
It's important, John, for Māori to have a voice in Parliament. It's also important that our government has a diversity of views in Parliament, and having the Māori electorates, the Māori seats in Parliament, gives Māori a voice.
How relevant have they been, and how relevant are they today?
Well, I actually think that they're even more relevant today than they were back then, only because of the fact that we need participation in the House. We've got the Treaty of Waitangi, and being tangata whenua, mana whenua, that actually gives us the opportunity to express that right to have a Māori seat in this country, or Māori seats. I think in terms of the 4 seats and now 7, that's probably been an injustice over the many years, and there's a likelihood that we could actually have 13 seats if all Māori were put on the Māori roll. At the moment, we get a choice.
What do you say to the fact that I'd say to you, who are you to tell me that I've got to go on the Māori roll first and have an opt-out provision 5 years later only?
A lot of our younger people aren't in a position to decide whether they want to go on the general and Māori, and with all the challenges that they actually see with the treaty settlement and the challenges and arguments that are happening there, they decide that they want to actually go on the general role because they've had enough of what is going on with regards to Māori. Now, I actually think that those challenges have been brought on because iwi and the tribal leaders have been put into that situation from, say, the government that have restricted us from having participation.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm on the iwi register. Does that follow then I take the option of being on the Māori register?
I would think so, and I would hope that you would actually do that. But what I've actually found is that iwi actually have a lot of things that they have to address, and obviously Māori representation in the House may not be a priority for them at that time.
What are your views on this?
First of all, we need to get them up there and enrolling. And then secondly, another major issue for us is actually to get them out and vote, because our voting participation, actually getting our people out and voting, is not high. About 60% of us went out and voted in the last election. We've got local government elections coming up this time, and I suspect given the limited information that we've got, only about 25-30% of us are going to get out and vote in the local government elections. And I think that's a problem we have.
Well, why would half the Māori population who identify as Māori on a census then choose not to go on the Māori roll?
Because we have a range of opinions. We're very diverse people. We're not just in, as you know, one little box going one way. And we would expect to have Māori on the general roll as well as the Māori roll. But those who go on the Māori roll tend to want their representatives. They tend to strongly identify as Māori, and they tend to have a very Māori kaupapa that they would like their representatives to follow. It's nearly 60% of Māori choose to be on the Māori roll. And if you were to take away the Māori roll, what are you going to do with those disaffected Māori who are then going to go on the general roll?
So why is it, and this is the problem, why is it that people can't motivate, one, Māori to get out and vote, and two, to actually register on the Blinken roll?
Many of the people that live a sort of kaupapa Māori lifestyle, the people that Anne was describing previously, if you were to rock up to a kapahaka wānanga on a Sunday afternoon, I bet you most of those people would be on the Māori roll. Most of those people would be engaged in higher forms of cultural expression. For many of us Māori, politics or having an interest in politics is a higher form of cultural expression. It's no different to learning the reo or being involved in kapahaka or wakaama or something like that. So, you know, for us of that mindset, this is very important. For everybody else who is perhaps disinterested or disaffected by it, I think they just don't see it as a Māori thing. They don't see it as something that affects them. They see the Māori seats as ineffective. And I think if there's any good work to be done, it's in changing that attitude.
Yes, you see, we're starting to get two-step Māori community, right? The culturally connected, around the iwi checkbook Māori, and the rest. Well, there's a two-step Māori society growing. Okay, it's quite clear, the chasm's growing quite large. There's the have Māoris and the have not Māoris. So there's a limited middle class, for the want of a better term. And Jeremy puts it, that they're connected, they're understanding, they rock up, they're organised. There's a big mob that aren't.
But John, you work with the urban Māori youth. Where are they enrolling? Which electoral roll are they going on?
Well, one, they're not going in any roll.
Oh, true.
Okay. Two, I don't know the answer to that until this option finishes, which is why we're having this discussion.
Yeah, but the first lot of statistics that have come out this first month after the option has been out there, it has shown that the new enrollers, so it's the new 18-year-olds over this last 7-year period, 3 to 1 they've gone on the Māori roll. Okay?
And what's the split?
Voters that are already on the roll, the stats are showing that as many Māori who are on the Māori roll have changed to the general roll. So 5,000 have gone on to the Māori roll, 5,000 have gone on to the general roll. That's of people who are already on the roll and got the choice.
Sure, that's a zero-sum.
But the young people,
sure.
are going
It's a zero-sum game, and at 5,000 going off, 5,000 going on, doesn't look like a new seat will arise in Auckland, but we'll come back to that after this break. Ko rahi tēnā mō tēnei wā, katiaki, we'll be back with more on the Māori electoral option after this. Hei muri I ngā whakatairanga, ka tirohea hei rautaki ahu whakamua, e ora ai I nei raru. Ā, ka pēhea hoki aua rautaki, e whakatīnana ti ai.
Whatever's best for Māori, these parties can actually make those challenges to these mainstream parties to say, hey, that may not be good for Māori, this may not be good for Māori.